Hello folks, and welcome to another video on my channel. Now today's video is going to be very different in terms of content, because this is not the type of content that I generally put out on my channel, which is music and content on the Word of God. Today I'm going to be talking about one of the most talked about subjects in the world right now, the COVID-19 or the coronavirus. Now, before we get started, I just want to make sure that I clear a couple of things off. Number one, I am not making this video just to get more views on YouTube. That's not the reason. No, that's not. Now, the reason why I am making this video is because the other day I got a message from one of my family members on WhatsApp. Now, the message title said symptoms of the COVID-19 virus. When I finally opened and saw the video, it had somebody plucking out a botfly larva from the human skin. Now that's how insane fake news or misinformation about the COVID-19 virus is on social media. So what I wanted to do was gather information from reliable sources like the WHO or the CDC, and then put out that information so that people who are close to me, my near and dear ones, my family members, they get the right information. Number two, I'm no medical expert. I'm no doctor. So I have relied on this information that has been provided by the CDC or the WHO, and then brought that information forward so that I can show that to all the people watching this video. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about are the symptoms of the COVID-19 virus. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because the symptoms of the COVID-19 virus, it's very similar to what we experience in the seasonal flu. So even in the flu that we get maybe every other year, we do experience symptoms like fever, we have dry cough, we have headaches. Now that's exactly the kind of symptoms that we have in COVID-19. Now, what you see on the left hand side of the screen is information taken from CDC and the WHO, and there is a comparison chart between the flu, the common cold, and the COVID-19 virus. As you can see that in a small number of cases, approximately 12 to 15% of the cases, people even experience stomach cramps or gastrointestinal issues like diarrhea, etc. in COVID-19. Now that is something that happens sometimes, but it does happen. But pause the video if you want to and take a good look at this chart so that you can understand how COVID-19 symptoms are different to the flu or the common cold. The next thing that we're going to talk about is the day-wise breakup of these symptoms. Now, the point to note before we get started with this section is the fact that for these symptoms to fully manifest in our bodies, it could take up to 14 to 15 days. So even if you are infected with the COVID-19, you may not show signs of any of these symptoms for 14 to 15 days. So this is the time when you could actually go out, still mingle with friends, and that's what makes this virus so dangerous, is the fact that you don't even know that you're infected, and you could spread the virus to your friends, to your family members without you knowing that you have it. Now, in the event that these symptoms start manifesting, that is, we start experiencing these symptoms after 14 to 15 days, now this is a day-wise breakup of how those symptoms take place. Now, the first day or the second day after they have physically manifested in our bodies, we may start experiencing fatigue, tiredness, and then moving on to day 3, it may start off by giving us a slight fever, dry cough, which an itchy throat. Now, on day 4, you may experience headaches on and off. The fever and the dry cough, they will persist. On day 5, for those of us who have gastrointestinal issues, we may start experiencing diarrhea, cramps, uneasiness in the stomach. On day 6 and day 7, the body pain or the body aches might get worse. The fever might get worse. The coughing might get worse. Now, this is the time when we have to be very careful, because this is where we have to make a decision. That is, should we get tested or should we not get tested? Now, in case you are wondering, why have we taken 7 days to make that decision? Now, here is a little piece of information. Now, in India, that's where I am, we only have 150,000 test centers available. That means we can only test 1.5 million people if we have to simultaneously. Now, that is exactly what makes this a big problem. If everybody starts panicking, and as an example, if you have a cold or if you have slight fever, and on day 2 of those symptoms occurring, you end up at these test centers, and just like you, even other people start doing that. The medical staff, the doctors, they will be overwhelmed. We are not currently capable of testing 1.5 billion people. That's the population of India, by the way. We are not equipped to do that right now. That is why, as our responsibility, to the country, as morally responsible citizens, we have to make sure that we only take the decision of getting ourselves tested if our symptoms do not improve on day 7 or thereafter. Now, nobody knows our bodies better than we do. Now, there are different types of people all over the world. People who like junk food, people who don't like junk food, they like eating healthy food. People who work out, people who don't work out. People who are young, people who are old. And every person's body is different. So what I mean by that is that when we start experiencing these symptoms, obviously we have had flu in the past. If we've been on this earth for 37 years now, I have had flu numerous times. And I know exactly how my body responds to it. So if I know that my body is capable of fighting this out, I figured that out, then there is no need to get tested. All you need to do is just make sure that you're isolating yourself. You make sure that you're away from your near and dear ones, that you're not infecting healthy people. But if you still feel uneasy, if you still feel like you're not getting better, then you definitely need to get tested. This is where you call those helplines that are available in your respective countries. You make sure that you contact your personal doctor if need be. Get all the help you need if you're not feeling better after day 7. This is where you definitely need to get tested. So make sure that you are informed properly. You do not panic. You do not give in to all those fake news, fake information, misinformation, where right on day 2 or day 3, if you're experiencing these symptoms, you land up in a test center. And that's not what we should be doing. What we should be doing is keeping a close watch on how we are feeling. We know our bodies better than anyone else. If you start feeling better, then by day 14 maybe or day 15, in most of the people who start recovering, they are already, recovered from this deadly virus, the COVID-19. But in case you're not feeling better, in case you still feel uneasy, you need to get tested. You need to make sure that you get the medical help that you need. Now, if it deteriorates, you could even have acute respiratory issues. That's what it could turn into. Your lungs could permanently get damaged if you do not act at the right time. So again, we know our bodies better than anyone else. So you have to make sure that you make the right decision somewhere around the 7th day or the 8th day mark, depending on your bodies. So make sure that you're always keeping a close watch on yourself. Now, in this next section, what I want to talk about is how does this virus compare against the other viruses, the other pandemics that we have experienced in the past, starting with the 1918 flu, the 1918 H1N1 flu rather. Now, we're talking about a time where the human population was just 1.83 billion. That's right, 1.83 billion. And the 1918 flu infected close to 27% of the human population. That means you had close to 500 million people who got infected. We had close to 50 million deaths that took place due to the 1918 H1N1 flu. Now that's how deadly that virus was. The mortality or the death rate globally versus the world population was close to 3%. Now that is a very high number, folks. Now, moving on to the pandemic of the 2009 and 2010 swine flu, which was yet another strain of the H1N1 virus, the 2009-2010 swine flu, we had a population of around 6.8 billion people around the world. And we had close to 20% of the world's population which had got infected with the swine flu. So we're talking about 1.4 billion people all around the world who got infected with the swine flu. However, the mortality or the death rate when it comes to the virus was just 0.04% versus the infected. And if we actually compare it against the world population back then the mortality rate versus the world population with the swine flu was just at 0.0084%. That's right, that low. That's because there have been huge advances in medical science over the last 100 years, and the dedicated doctors, the medical staff, the hospitals, they all put in a consolidated effort. They worked day in and day out and made sure that we never had those high mortality rates like we experienced with the 1918 flu. Now, coming to the COVID-19 virus, how does this compare to the 1918 flu? How does this compare to the 2009 and 2010 swine flu? Now, we currently have a world population of around 7.7 billion people around the world. That's right, 7.7 billion people. And so far, as on 22nd of March 2020, we have over 307,000 confirmed cases of the COVID-19 virus. We have over 13,000 people who have died from this virus. Now, if you talk about a comparison with the other pandemics, you can very well see on the screen as to how it compares. The mortality rate right now is very low. But what's so lethal and what's so deadly about this virus is the fact that just one person can infect as many as 3 to 4 people. That's how deadly this virus is. And like we discussed earlier, you may have it and you may not even know that you have it because the symptoms have not manifested physically, and you could very well pass it on to your friends and family members just because you didn't know about it. You may not, what we can do at this stage is to be extremely careful moving forward. So the next few weeks, the next few months, they're very, very important for the whole world. Now, what I do want to talk about is just one small impact. Just one small impact can cause such a huge effect on global economies around the world. And what is that? What is that one thing that really worries governments around the world is the fact that people are not stepping out. And in fact, that is one of the things that they're not supposed to do, that is step out. But why is this such a huge cause of concern for governments? Now, let's take a look at this butterfly effect. All right. Now, people not stepping out. What's going to happen if we don't step out? Now, if we don't go to restaurants, if we don't go to malls, if we don't go to those stadiums, those games that we wanted to watch, if we do not go to gymnasiums, what happens if we, the people, stop stepping out? We have no people spending money. The flow of money, it's not exchanging hands. There is decreased spending all around because of the fact that we're not stepping out. And what that leads to is deflation. And what deflation leads to is a decrease in profits. Now, the profits go down, but the salaries still have to be paid. Now, this is where if you're not making enough money, then people have to make that tough decision of shutting their businesses down. And if businesses shut down, we are talking about the unemployment rates significantly shooting up. And if people are unemployed, there's going to be people panicking furthermore. There's going to be social disorder. In fact, even the governments who were collecting tax from these businesses while they were operating, if they are shutting down, the governments do not collect taxes from these businesses. So even the government is not making money off of taxes. Now that all comes from just one thing that happens: people not stepping out. Now that is how deadly this virus is. Just one thing, not stepping out of our homes, leads to these things. So even if the virus does not get us, the consequences, the impacts that it has on businesses, on people, on global economies all around the world, it is going to get you. Even if the virus does not get you, unfortunately, folks, these things will get you. Now, here are a few things that we should do to make sure that we contain this virus. Now, in India, where I am at the moment, we are at stage 2 of the infection. Now, as you well know, that there are 4 stages, all right, to any infections. The first stage is where, there is foreign, or what do you call it, people who start the infection. The second one, where, even local people start spreading the virus. The third one is the community spreading. And the fourth one is an epidemic. So India is at stage 2. And how do we contain this virus at stage 2 so that it does not move over to stage 3 and stage 4? Now, these are the next things that we're going to discuss. So please pay attention. One of the first few things that we should be doing, these are the do's that we should strictly follow to maintain personal hygiene. That's very, very important, guys. We have to maintain personal hygiene. We have to maintain physical distancing. And the second thing that we should be doing is we should be practicing washing our hands frequently. Now, it may seem clean. There's no dirt on it. It seems clean, but still, make sure that you're washing your hands frequently for a bare minimum of 20 seconds with soap or any alcohol-based, hand rub. Just make sure you're cleaning those hands frequently. Make sure you cover your nose or your mouth with a handkerchief or a tissue paper while you're sneezing or while you're coughing. And after you're done with it, make sure that that tissue paper goes into a closed bin, not an open bin, a closed bin. All right. Now, apart from that, what we should also maintain is a safe distance. We should maintain a safe distance from people or persons who could be feeling uneasy, who are showing symptoms, that they are not well. Please make sure that you are staying away from people like that. Now, make sure that you sneeze in the inner side of your elbow and not in the palm of your hands. If you do want to sneeze, if you do want to cough, that's what you do. You don't do this. No, please don't. Make sure that you sneeze or cough in the inner side of your elbows. And make sure, if you're feeling uneasy, if you're tired, if some kind of fatigue is set in, make sure that you keep checking your temperatures regularly. And if that persists, immediately contact a doctor. In a previous section, we did talk about when you should get tested. All right. Now, here are a few of the things that you should not be doing. Definitely not. The first thing is, don't shake hands anymore. You should not be doing it. Now is the time when the whole world is embracing the namaste, or the whole world is embracing swadikap, as in Thailand. So this is the time when we should not be shaking hands. Just don't. And do not have close contact with anybody if you're experiencing cold or any of the symptoms that we have talked about in the previous section. Make sure you keep your hands off of your face. Don't do this, or don't do this. By the way, I washed my hands before I started making this video. So please keep your hands off of your face. Do not sneeze or cough into the palm of your hands. Like we said, practice this. This is going to be the norm moving forward for all of us. Now, for all those tobacco lovers, do not spit in public. Spitting in public is anyways a nasty thing to do. Unfortunately, in India, we see a lot of people doing that, spitting on roads, spitting in public. Please stop spitting in public. Stop doing that. That's a nasty thing to do. Now, do not travel unnecessarily. When we say travel, we're not talking about air travel, going to another country, even locally. Unless and until it's absolutely necessary, do not travel, even locally. Now, do not participate in large gatherings. Even if you've gone to an office, to a factory maybe, do not sit in large groups, in canteens, etc. Make sure that you maintain that social distancing. Do not visit gyms, do not visit clubs. Don't go to public places which have more than 4 people gathering together. Here's the last one, which is the most important one. Do not spread rumors. Do not spread panic. There are a lot of fake news floating around, a lot of misinformation with the COVID-19. There are a lot of people, my own friends who have come up to me and who have said that, hey, buddy, don't eat chicken, don't eat beef, don't eat pork, because the virus could spread because of that as well. All right. And I've already given you the example of the WhatsApp message that I received right at the start of the video. So that's how bad fake news or fake information or misinformation is around the COVID-19. Now, even when it comes to this video, what I want you guys to do, folks, please go back to reliable sources, go back to sources like the WHO or the CDC, and then find out information from these reliable sources. Do not go to just any website. Do not watch just any video. Even this video, guys, make sure you educate yourself. That brings me to the last section that I want to talk about, is the way forward. Now, these are very tough times for the human race. And this is a request that we all come together, that we all stay connected. We maintain that social distance, but we stay connected through video calling. That's what technology is for. That's the beauty of technology. Make sure you're reaching out to your family members, to your friends. Keep talking, keep communicating with one another. In fact, we've been so busy with our lives that we have stopped doing that. In fact, the COVID-19 virus, one of the things that has come out positively is the fact that, it is bringing people together. It is making people talk to one another more than usual. So make sure that you keep communicating with one another. And please make sure that you keep each other in prayer. There is power in prayer by numbers. So I request all my brothers and sisters, all you folks out there, make sure you pray for one another. These are tough times. People getting laid off, people not getting paid, businesses shutting down, global economies have come to a standstill. These are really tough times, folks. So please pray for one another and make sure that you maintain that personal hygiene. Keep washing your hands. Maintain that physical distance. If you think that you're not feeling too well, make sure that you're maintaining that social distance. Now, I'm not going to be talking about subscribing or clicking on that like button in this video. It's irrelevant. This video is just to make sure that you get the right information, that you spread the right information, and that you look out for each other. That's what we need to do. The human race, it's kind of a wake-up call. We need to come together. Let's get together, stay connected, pray for one another, and we will come out of this, folks. So that's all that I've got to share. And stay safe, keep praying, and God bless you all.